Darul Hikmah presents Story Time.
He who digs a hole for his brother will himself fall into it. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. There was once a king who was very sick, and no matter how many doctors tried to treat him, none of them was successful. Eventually, the king made an announcement that he would very greatly reward any person by whose treatment Allah Ta'ala gave him cure. As a result, doctors came from all parts of the land to try and treat the king, but none of them was successful. One day, a villager happened to come to the town. When he heard about the announcement, he also prepared some medicines and gave it to the king to use for 3 days. By order of Allah Ta'ala, the medicines cured the king. The king's team was extremely happy and praised the villager in front of all the important people of the country. The villager was made to feel special, and he became one of the close companions of the king. The chief minister was, however, not happy. When he saw how much status the villager was receiving, he became very jealous. He thought that if this continued, the villager will soon take over his position. The minister therefore thought of a plan to put an end to it. When he heard that the villager was going to have a meeting with the king after Isha Salah, he took this opportunity to put his plan into action. He therefore went before the king and appeared to be very sad. When the king asked him why he was so sad, he said, "You are so good to us and we appreciate this so much." However, as for the villager, "What?" the king exclaimed. "The villager is an extremely nice man and a very sincere one." The minister then said, "The good that you know about him is only when he is in front of you. Otherwise, behind you, he speaks evil things about you and your family. In fact, he even keeps his hand in front of his mouth when he talks to you because he says he cannot stand the smell of your breath. You may not have noticed this before, but if you do not believe me, you should take note of it when he comes to see you this evening." That night, the minister invited the villager for supper. He had an excellent meal prepared and gave an instruction to the cook to add extra garlic into the food. When the villager arrived, he started eating. The food was delicious and he could not stop eating. When he had eaten a great deal, the minister said to him, "Do you know what is the secret ingredient of an excellent meal?" "What is it?" the villager asked. The minister explained, "It is an amount of garlic we have put into it. Although garlic has a terrible smell, but it makes food very tasty." When he heard this, the villager immediately stopped eating. "Why have you stopped eating?" the minister asked. The villager replied, "I am going to speak to the king tonight. I would not like the smell to be coming from my mouth." "Oh dear," the minister exclaimed. "The king hates the smell of garlic, but do not worry. I know what you can do. When you are speaking to the king, keep your hand in front of your mouth so that the smell does not reach him." When the villager went to speak to the king remembered what the minister had said and took notice of how the villager behaved. When he saw the villager keeping his hand in front of his mouth, he became very angry and decided to have the villager put to death. He therefore wrote a letter to a friend of his. He wrote, "The man who brings you this letter is very unfaithful. As soon as you receive this letter from him, you should behead him." He handed the letter over to the villager and sent him to deliver it. Anxious to know what had happened, the minister went to the villager before he left and asked him what had happened. When the villager explained that he had the letter to deliver, the minister thought that his plan had failed and that the king was now giving the villager important work to do. He therefore said to the villager, "Do not worry, I shall deliver this letter for you and you may return home." The villager therefore handed the letter over to the minister, and when he delivered the letter, he was immediately killed. When the king eventually learned that what happened, he was pleased to be rid of the jealous minister. See, dear children, evil plans never have a good result. Allah Ta'ala sees everything. hears everything, and knows what every person wants to do. When we try to harm someone, we ourselves will lose. If our parents or teachers reward someone for doing something, we must never be jealous about it. Never be jealous and never think that we will cause them disgrace. We must rather try to do what they have done so that we can also enjoy the same admiration. The end.